Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're enjoying these videos I've been putting out. The tomato sauce recipe I made was delicious. Today we're going to be making something very simple. It's a bit restauranty. It's a spiced Moroccan aubergine. The ingredients here guys, but it's very simple. We've got 8 basic salad tomatoes, 4 aubergines, a few sprigs of coriander, 1 sprig of mint, 2 white onions peeled, 4 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika and 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. And for this dish we need to firstly start by prepping all the ingredients. As you can see, I've already diced my aubergine and it's very simple to do. You just grab your aubergine, you cut the end off. I just push the top back a little bit, cut the end off like that, move that to one side, discard any of the greeny bits. As you can see here and here, just take those bits off. You're going to cut a little bit, as you can see here, just a tiny bit off, just to secure the aubergine, to stop it from rocking around, safety when we're cutting. And then the same method again as we did in the last video, the claw method. You're going to put your hand on top like this, and you're just going to cut down all the aubergine, like that, all the way along to the end. Okay, very simple. Then you're going to stack the aubergine up into little piles. So I've got 3 little piles here. And you're going to run your knife back across it again, this way. And then you push it all back together. You're going to run your knife again this way. So roughly they're all sort of the same size. They're all going to be various sizes anyway because of the shape of the aubergine, but roughly the same sort of size. And repeat with the other pieces of aubergine. Very simple. Just run your knife in, always keeping that claw so you don't cut your fingers. Very easy. Nice and simple, and obviously the more you do, the quicker you get and the more confident you get with the knife. Obviously I'm using a big knife here, it's a lot easier with a big knife. Just cut like that, and then that's the aubergine done. So you prepare that in advance. Obviously if you've got this little bit here, you can just cut that bit up as well. I just cut it into 3 and then go the other way. The same again, you can eat all that bit, so it's all good. So once the aubergine is done, we're going to move on to the tomato. Now to blanch the tomato, you lower it in the water with a spider, or you can just drop them in, but just be careful not to burn yourself. Nice boiling rapid water with salt inside. You put it in there for about 10 to 20 seconds depending on if the skin starts to peel or not. What you don't want to do is cook the tomato. You just want it to start peeling, and then you refresh it in ice water. Once you got to that stage, then peel it. I'll show you that in a minute. As you can see, my skin started to come off. As long as you can peel it off the tomato, that means it's ready. It's quite hot now, so dunk it into ice water quickly to stop the tomato from cooking. Now your tomato is cool. What you want to do is peel off the skin on the tomato. If you can do it with your fingers, great, that means it's perfect. If you need a little knife, then just pick up a little knife like this, hold it in your hand, and you're just going to grab a bit of the skin and peel it back. Nice and easy. Just peeling off the tomato skin. Keep all the skin. This is the key for this dish. Nothing is wasted. We don't waste anything in this dish. So all the skin goes into this little bowl here. Now the next process is we're going to go back to our big knife. And we're going to cut the tomato into quarters like this. Always flip it over onto that side so it doesn't move. Cut all the tomatoes into quarters, and then we'll petal the tomatoes. So we'll remove the seeds. As you can see, I've already done a couple already. I've kept all the seeds in the skin in this little bowl here, and the rest of them, I've roughly diced them. So what you do, you basically grab your tomato like this, with the bigger end at the top. With your knife, you just put it at the bottom, and you just push gently and remove those seeds like that. Very simply, pushing the petal to one side and removing the seeds to the other. Try not to take too much of the flesh when you remove the seeds. You just want to take the seeds out and not the flesh. Otherwise, you're using all your tomato in the petaling stage. Once you've got to this part, you're going to dice up all the tomatoes, and then not too fine. They're roughly diced because you make a little fondue with them anyway when you cook them out. So just roughly de-seed them like this. Remove the seeds to one side. So that's that bit done. Once you've de-seeded all your tomatoes, give your bowl a little wipe, otherwise it'll be full of loads of tomato juice. And then with your knife, with your claw method again, and your knife, you're just going to cut down 4 strips depending on the size of the tomato, and 4 strips that way. So you get nice, a little rough dice of tomato. They roughly call it a concasse. in the trade, but we're not going to worry about it too much because we're going to cook it out in the pan, so like it's a fondue, like I said before. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and obviously the more confident you get with your knife skills, the quicker you can chop the tomato, so it doesn't feel like it's such a tedious job when you're doing it. When you've got to this stage, prep all your tomatoes and all your aubergine, and the key for this dish is to have everything ready in advance, so you're not doing it and rushing it whilst everything is cooking. So with the seeds and the skin, we're going to make a little tomato almost liquid or sauce with all the skins and that, so nothing gets wasted. So everything goes into the mixer, and we're going to put the mixer on, blend it, and when you've got it to this stage, which is nice and blended like that, we're going to strain it. Those bits in there. So that will go into there. Like I said in my other videos, if you have anything like that, give yourself a spatula and just scoop out all the stuff from it. You don't want to waste anything as you're blending away or weighing things into separate bowls. Scoop it all out into the sieve. Like that. And we're just going to strain it all off. Same off the lid. Don't waste anything off these lids. All that goes into there. This is just a really good way of using up everything in this dish, all the skins and the seeds. And then we're just going to pass that through a little sieve. Now you see we've passed it, you've got a nice tomatoey liquid there. This would be great for our aubergine dish. We'll put that to one side quickly. The next job we've got to do is we've got to grate this onion and garlic we prepared earlier, so it's peeled, ready to go. Like I said, everything's ready for this dish in advance. Now on the big grater, the big part of the box grater, you leave the onion whole, leave the root at this end, furthest away from the blades, and you're just going to grate into the box grater. Just mind your fingers, keep them nice and flat, and just pull down on the grater. So you have a nice grated onion. You can do this in a rubber coupe, or if you learned from the last video the tomato sauce and how to chop it really fine, you can do it that way as well. So once the onion is grated, you're left with like an onion pulp almost, which is really good for this dish because you want it nice and fine. Repeat the process again now with the garlic. Obviously be careful of your fingers. Like I said before, you can use a rubber coupe if you want, or you can chop it nice and fine like I showed you in the last video. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. As you can see, the garlic is nice and fine in there as well, so it's the same consistency as the onion. Now as you can see, everything is prepared. Now the easy job is just getting it all cooked. So the next job we do is get a pan on the fire with a medium heat, a little bit of olive oil or rapeseed oil, and then we're going to start sweating off the onion and garlic nice and slowly with no colour. So you put about 2 tablespoons of rapeseed oil or olive oil in the pan on a medium heat, just so you can feel the heat coming off it like that. The onions and garlic go in, use a spatula again like I said before, and give it a good mix and cook it out just for a few minutes so it's nice and soft. This will take probably 4 to 5 minutes just to get nice and soft. You don't want any colour on it. Just want to cook it out nice and slowly. Now that the onions and garlic have softened nicely, it shouldn't take too long really. You're going to add the ground cumin, the 2 tablespoons of teaspoons of ground cumin. And you're going to add the ground smoked paprika as well. They will go in now at this stage to help just fry them off. They're a dry powder, just to help to fry them off a little bit. But it shouldn't take too long, and your house will start smelling nice. The aromas will start coming out of the spices. Just fry them off nicely. Right, once you've fried that for a couple of minutes, you're going to add all those diced tomatoes you made earlier. The rough dice of tomato, de-seeded and de-skinned, they go in. And then that just gets cooked out until it's nice and dry. At the moment it looks quite dry, but the tomatoes will release with their liquid, and you just want to make it nice and fondue-y. At this stage, just after you add the tomatoes, fry them all up with the onions and the garlic and the spices, get it all nice and cooked up. Add a good pinch of salt at this stage as well. That'll help break down the tomatoes and the moisture in there. So as you can see now, all the moisture is dissolved away from the tomatoes. It's become more of a fondue stage. Now you're going to add all that tomato you blended earlier, the skins and the seeds, they all go in. To to this stage, and whilst this is reducing, we're going to be doing frying the aubergines off. Most people salt the aubergines first, but you don't really have to. If you're going to fry it really hard, you don't need to salt them too much. You can just fry them nice and hard. As you can hear, the noise has totally changed now. We're going to from a frying to more like a stewing, boiling stage. So what we're going to do now is put that on the back and start frying off the aubergines. So as you can see now, we have a frying pan on. We put a little bit or a good glug of rapeseed oil or olive oil into the frying pan. Get it nice and hot. You want it almost smoking hot. When you add the aubergines to it, the temperature doesn't drop too much. And at the back here I have that tomato we just cooked out with the onions, the garlic and the tomato juice. That's all in the back there, cooking down nice and slowly whilst we fry the aubergines up. So you can keep an eye on two things at once. So what we need to do now is get that nice and hot. To find out if your pan's hot enough, just put one piece inside. If you hear that sizzle, then it's great. If it's not quite ready, then wait a little bit longer. Now we're going to put these in small batches into the frying pan. Just nice and small, don't overfill the pan. The more you put in, the less the heat drops. So put a nice even layer on the bottom, like that. Get a nice golden colour all over. It may take a little bit of time to fry this aubergine off. Obviously you can reduce the recipe if you want. Just reduce the amount of tomatoes. It's 2 tomatoes per 1 aubergine. So if you're going to do 2 aubergines, you're going to just need 4 tomatoes. Nice and easy. And reduce the onion and reduce the garlic ratio accordingly. Now just fry this off until it's nice and golden all over. And then we're going to strain it out of the oil and repeat the process again and again. As you can see now, I've got a nice colour all over. Just cook it out a little bit, just so they're cooked. You don't want them to be completely soft, you just want them to be cooked. So give it a nice little mix around here so they're cooked out. Obviously they keep cooking a little bit as they cool down. Nice golden colour all over. And we'll just repeat the process with the rest of the aubergine. So now obviously the aubergines have all been fried off. I put under a little colander just to catch any excess juice, but there isn't much come out of that. It's just in case there's a lot of oil you're frying with and it's absorbed it. You don't want that to all go in your sauce, so just drain it off a little bit. And then the sauce is now come down, and as you can just see, it forms a line in the middle of the pan. That means it's just enough for juice. You don't want to go too much more than that. You need some liquid in there, because when you add the aubergines they're a bit spongy, so they'll absorb any excess liquid you have going on there. But as you can see clearly there, as I move it, it stays to one side. So next stage now is to add the aubergines to this pan of tomato. So just scrape it all in there, all of it will go in, and then we're almost ready to go. The best thing for this dish is, if you want to make it for a dinner party or something, then make it a day before in advance. All the flavours will like infuse overnight, it'll be lovely. This is the best way to do it, in this pan here, and then give it a good old mix up. Move that out of the way. Give it a good old mix up so everything's now incorporated. Try not to beat it too much. You don't want to break up the aubergine any more than it already is. Keep some integrity in the aubergine. Give it a good mix. So what we're going to do firstly, before we finished everything, just going to taste it and make sure it's good on seasoning. If it needs anything else now's the time to add it. For me personally, the spice is great. Just might need a couple of tablespoons of salt. Give that a little mix. And then we're going to show you how to serve it a little bit. You don't need to do it all to it now, because it will all wilt. Like I said before with the mint and the coriander, we're going to just chop it up and mix it through a little bowl just to show you an example of the finished product. So I'm going to move this to one side, grab myself a little bowl. I'm going to spoon a couple of spoonfuls of this out of this pan into this bowl. So obviously if you're doing this at home for someone's dinner party, you're going to get it nice and hot, ready to go. Like that in a saucepan or in a pan, and you make it nice and warm. Then you get yourself some coriander and some mint. Now you can chop these all together. The mint, I've just taken the bigger stalks out. You're going to push it all together like this, all the same sort of way. It's almost like a chiffonade we're going to do here. You can put it all together, and then you're going to just roll it up like a cigar and just roughly chop it. So just roll it up like that. And with your knife and your claw position, you're just going to run your knife like this. Now you can add more or less. If you don't like mint and coriander, you can add parsley to it. If you really want to be adventurous, you can add some chopped rocket or some chopped spinach. This dish works really well with smoked salmon, the chalk stream trout. It's really good with lamb. So once you chop the mint, pop it inside your spiced aubergine mix. I kept all the stalks on. I've done the same thing with this one. These stalks are nice and soft. If they're really woody and tough, take them off. And just run your knife back through the coriander. Like I said, if you don't like coriander, replace it with parsley. Not everyone likes coriander. Just give it a good rough chop. If you have to run your knife back through it, like I said in the last video, put your hand on top and just a rocking motion, like that, back through it. But obviously the more you chop coriander, the same with the mint, the more you bruise it. So roughly chop like that. And all that goes into this bowl here. And then when everything's inside the bowl, give it a nice good mix. And then you just do this before serving, because otherwise the mint and the coriander will wilt. And that's it. That's your finished product. That's your spiced aubergine, finished with coriander and fresh mint. And we serve that. You can serve that, like I said, with lamb. It works well with all fishes, oily fishes. It's quite good. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Hope you enjoy this spiced aubergine dish. It works really well cold as well with smoked salmon. It's delicious, some cream cheese. Thanks for watching, guys, and hope to see you in the next video.